Okay, so hey, today we're happy to have everybody here back today, back in town, and we've got a really special guest today.
He's not that
our
special.
most internet famous guy we've had so far. This is Sean Whalen. He actually has 156,000 followers on Facebook.
More,
that's pretty impressive. Right? That's a lot of people.
And growing.
And I've known Sean for quite some time. He and I built a gym. It was a fight gym, and then I also had the largest fight promotion in the history of the state of Utah. We've had the four biggest shows ever, and Sean Whalen was one of, if not our biggest draw for at least 2 or 3 of those. I know you fought a lot more. I mean, you've had money.
Is that a
five fights?
Really?
5 fights, but
2
at
on
least
Showdown.
2 on Showdown. Where Sean, this is the thing about Sean that impresses me. The guy has unbelievable balls to do what he does because he's always been an entrepreneur that's working full-time, has massive, grandiose ideas, but yet he's willing on a part-time basis to go in and spar 20, 30 minutes at a time and then go in front of 8,000 people in a packed arena and fight. I mean, full-on MMA fight, and he was always one of our main draws to every show. And he actually has the balls to pay to have his employees and his top customers or clients come and watch him fight, with the chance of watching him potentially get knocked out, armbarred, whatever it is. And to me, I mean, when I compete,
not last time, right?
I get so much more. I'm so much more fearful of losing than I am excited about winning. And so the fact that he was willing to do that and willing to say, dude, I'm going to pay for you to sit at a VIP table. I'm going to pay $250 just for you to have your seat. And then he was spending $10,000 just to have his clients come watch him fight. And to me, that was an unbelievable amount of courage, balls, whatever you want to call it. I was always amazed. I'm like, I can't believe he's willing to do that. Because
but you didn't think I was going to win because you called my first pro fight. You and Johnny Ritchie called my first pro fight, and I know exactly. Do you remember what you said?
No, I don't.
When they called TJ Jones in,
yeah,
and you're like, he's the young UV or U of U guy, whatever, and they called me in. And you said what? What did you say?
I have no idea.
It's on YouTube, son.
I believe you, but I don't have
YouTube.
I don't have my
so if Adam could remember the amount of things that he said at certain inopportune times.
I will believe you.
So
Whatever
Adam
you say, I'll admit
he said basically the same thing, that I spent all this money to have all my friends and family there, and how you hope that I didn't get my blood on all of them because they were all sitting right next to them. He's the old man, and he hopes you hope that I didn't get my blood all over my friends' family.
I was hoping for you.
I know, I appreciate that.
Okay, so no, but the truth is, you knocked him out. Attaboy.
Hard to believe.
And I will admit that Sean is able to multitask. And I don't believe in multitasking, that you're actually doing 2 things at the same time, but he's able to diversify his time and get a lot of things done during the same month time span. So that's always been something that amazed me, that you were willing to run a business and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get in front of a packed basketball arena and, risk getting my butt kicked in front of my closest associates, and I'm actually going to pay for them to come sit in the nicest seats, so that if blood does fly, which it does fly sometimes,
adds to the experience.
I've gotten blood in my Sprite, and I mean, dude, it's not good. I definitely.
That's quite the fight watching drink.
Yeah.
Sprite.
Well, you're UVU. Even if I were to be of the harder drinking persuasion, you can't. There's no alcohol.
I was thinking like Diet Mountain Dew or something.
Oh, Diet. Yeah. That was. They don't even have. They do actually do have Diet Mountain Dew.
They do.
Okay, so anyway, Sean, you do all sorts of different projects and have done numerous businesses, but right now the thing that you're really focused on is a thing called Lions Not Sheep. So what is that?
So I had the idea a couple months ago. I came up with a name and actually hit up Mike. I said, dude, I had this idea for this name. We just put it on a T-shirt just because it was kind of like representative of me, like my journey, where
Mentality.
I'm at, what I'm doing, politically driven, so on and so forth. And so he did a shirt and said we put the Lions Not Sheep on it, and I posted it on Facebook, and like within a matter of a couple hours, somebody's like, hey, how do I buy that shirt? And so I kind of hit up Mike and said, let's just make some shirts. And it started off kind of as the shirt concept of like representative.
What does that mean? What exactly does Lions Not Sheep mean?
It's representative of me. It's the idea and the concept that a lot of people are trying to find, which is like, who are they? What's their identity? I mean, am I a sheep? Am I a follower of what everybody's telling me to do in my job, in my relationship, or am I out charting my own territory, standing on my own 2 feet, creating my own identity? Because, I mean, there's a difference between sheep that are following and lions that are out foraging and creating their own identity.
So people think that it's reflective of that quote, that said, lions don't concern themselves with the opinion of sheep, which kind of in a way it is, but not so much.
It just made sense to me. It just resonated with me.
Is it inspired by that quote or something different?
No, it
more
literally,
personal?
like, no joke. I was actually in the shower and had the idea and the thought process for it. It was just like lions, not sheep. And you hear like wolves, not sheep, and different things like that. And
we talked about wolves, like, because we didn't want that negative connotation.
Yeah, because I said, hey, I like lions, not sheep, and I looked it up and had the domain available, so I bought the domain, and it was just kind of like, it was just my own thing. It was just for me. It was like fighting. Like I fought just because I wanted to, because it was like a challenge. It was a push for me. And so I came up with the name, bought the URL, and all of a sudden it started taking off, and I realized that there was a ton of people that really resonated with it.
Well, so what do you think of when you think of someone who identifies in the comparison of lions, not sheep? What would
Ashley's
be
a lion,
a lion?
Sean's a sheep.
What's a lion to you? Someone that's a lion in that context. What would a lion personality be like?
Ashley Smith.
It's not Ashley.
Whisper comments.
It is Ashley. It's Ashley.
I'm kidding.
It really it's someone. It's not. It doesn't have to do with a political party. It doesn't have to do with like monetary aspirations. It has to do with your own mental state, your own consciousness of where you stand. Are you able to think for yourself religiously, psychologically, physically? In every single aspect of life, are you just following what people are telling you to do, listening to what people are saying, following the media, following the jobs, following all these things, or are you literally consciously stepping back and creating something on your own thought process, your own cognitive understanding of what the world is? So to me, it's just there's this huge thing happening in society right now where people are just sick and tired of the status quo. They're sick and tired of the way it's been. You know what I mean? You hear the way it's been, and it's just, I go to college, I get a job, I get married, I have kids, I get the white picket fence, and I roll over and die.
Do you think that's the reason why Donald Trump leads in the polls, because he is a non-politician and he says
100%.
really ridiculous stuff?
100%. But here's the thing:
So,
it's not.
What I'm saying is he says things that are totally not politically correct. You think people are just tired of
politically
political
correct's a
correctness?
bullshit term anyways.
Yeah.
It's totally bullshit.
Yeah.
The reality is he says the things that people are thinking, but don't have the ability or the lion's stature, if you will, to say, which I feel like is what, I don't want to say my strength has been, but something that I feel like the reason that I've been able to draw people to come watch me fight, and the reason that people have been attracted to my Facebook and Instagram and things like that, is because I'm able to share things the way that I want to share them, and it represents, in my opinion, a vast majority of people, but goes into that space of politically correct, which most people don't want to go.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So I feel like there's always been people who were sick of the status quo or whatever, but until recently, there's never really been a platform or like a way for a brash dude to just come out and speak his mind in a way that there is. So how did that happen for you, where you recognized that, hey, because we've talked about stuff before in different conceptual ways about taking ideas and being able to get them out there. How did that, what clicked for you where you're like, hey, I could be that guy, or I could, what I'm saying resonates with people?
Well, it's interesting because I never really intended to be that. It wasn't like, okay, I wrote it down on my goals. I want to create this online social celebrity status through Facebook or whatever. It literally started from after my divorce, and this story. My divorce was super, super nasty. I mean, I went through like a 2-year span of like courts and this and that and the other and police and the whole thing. And I ended up hiring a coach who was like, look, man, you know, you need to start sharing your journey. And that meant sharing all of it, not just like the rosy shit and the good stuff and all of the wins, which is what most people do, but sharing everything. And so one night I had an opportunity to go to my ex-wife's house, and it was the first time that I was inside of her house. And she had a brand new baby, and I'm holding the baby, and I kind of snapped this picture, and I just wrote this post on Facebook, which, I mean, up to that point, Facebook was just this outlet for me to spew like frustration and anger and look at my ex-wife and she did this and can you believe this, and it was almost like that, like trying to build confidence in me that my life was justified, right? And so I shared this post about how I had spent the day. I was holding her baby, and I took a picture and just shared how, you know, 2 years prior to that, I was literally picking up and dropping off my kids at a police station. Like, that's how nasty my divorce was. We spent 6 months literally with supervised custody to pick up and drop off my kids. And I shared that. It was like super raw. I was super vulnerable. And I just said, here I am holding her baby now in her living room with her sitting 10 feet away. I never would have imagined this happening.
Was her new husband there too?
Yeah. And this was like, it was really, really heavy. But it was something where literally I just shared it really quickly and woke up the next morning and it had started to go viral, whatever you want to call viral. Yeah. And it went from like 1,000 likes to 5,000 likes to 20,000 likes to it has over 1 million likes. It had been shared like 900,000 times. I had literally men's groups, women's groups, divorce groups from all over the world calling me saying, hey, we want to interview you, we want you on our podcast and this and that and the other. And so that was kind of the start of where like the momentum started to swing. And I just, truthfully, I gained a lot of confidence in that, knowing that, you know, that I share with a lot of my clients now that your mess is your message. I mean, you know, everybody can talk about sunshine and roses and kittens and the whole thing, but your mess is your message.
Well, what about that picture do you think resonated with so many people? Why do you
think the fact that, do you think it was more like hopeful to people, or the fact that they've been?
Well, you guys liked it because I had a Riven hat on, and so Riven's all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think truthfully, didn't hurt. You know, this is something that I share with all my clients. Is, you know, what we just talked about. If you want to truly make a dent in the universe, be authentic, and authentic is real. And that's the problem: is most people don't have the ability to be real with themselves, let alone expose that realness to the world.
Why do you think that is? Like fear? Because you've talked about it, and we've talked about it a lot. Yeah. Why do you feel just the
people
way
are terrified?
People's perception, how they're going to be perceived on the other thing.
The status quo. It's the sheep concept. It's literally like, look, you don't say these kinds of things. Well, why don't you say them? Well, that's just the way it is. Well, says who? You know what I mean? So there's these preconceived notions of what life is supposed to be, what communication is supposed to look like, how sex is supposed to work, how relationships are supposed to work. And my concept is that it's all bullshit, because we've been raised, all of us have been raised since we were kids. Sit down, quiet down, slow down, shut up, whatever, just follow along. And if you go anywhere outside of what makes other people comfortable or uncomfortable, don't do that. Just don't do it. You know what I mean? And what I found is that I shared something that was really vulnerable and really raw about me, which was my divorce, which was like really, really, really like intense. Like, holy shit, he really said that. And I think that's what resonated with people, is so many people have been through that same experience, but we all feel like we're an island. We feel like nobody really knows how bad it hurts. Like, nobody knows my shit. Nobody knows how deep my story is. Nobody knows what I've done. And the reality is, like, most people have done really dumb shit. Most people have been down really dark paths. There's a lot of people that struggle with depression and anxiety, but yet when your friends ask you, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm really good. Things are great. The kids are great. Marriage is awesome. Meanwhile, you know, she's popping Xanax like Skittles and he's banging his secretary. So that's truthfully what reality is. Yeah. No one wants to talk about it.
So what got you to that level to where you were like, you know what, because we all have this social face or whatever, this facade or that we're saying, what got you to the level where you were like, you know what, I'm just get real, recognized as real, I'm going to be real. What, during your divorce or period of your dark times, what was it that like changed?
I think it truthfully came from the weight of lying. You know, I believe when God made us, God made all of us like expert liars. We're all professional liars. And at the end of the day, who do we lie to the most? Ourselves. You know what I mean? And the weight of that, like when someone asks you, how you doing? Like, you want to spew out truth. You want to do that, but
Nobody
we're
wants- no
programmed
one
to
wants
be
to hear
liars.
that, though.
Exactly.
I mean, no
but
one,
here's the thing,
you're like,
though.
how you doing? Well, dude, honestly, this, I mean,
But
like,
that's
there's a guy at the gym that I will avoid, I mean, at all costs, just so I don't have to hear how he's actually doing, just because he just.
But that's true. But
freak out.
that's the thing. That's what's reality.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that's what separates those who truly can make a dent in the universe and those who truly can create a tribe, like what Seth Godin talked about in his book,
Yeah.
Tribes, are the people that are able to do that. No, there's a time and a place. You don't sit, in a urinal with a guy telling him your life story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, in a real place, in a real position, with family, with friends, with confidants, with those people that you truly respect and love and appreciate, there should be that reality. And that's what people are afraid of, is that their own reality. And so instead we just lie. And for me, it just became so heavy, like, just the burden and the anger became so heavy for me that it was like, I can't do this anymore. And I started, like, getting raw and getting vulnerable and just sharing, like, yeah, I f***ed up my marriage. Oh, we can't say the F word, huh?
That's
it's okay.
We're going to edit
Bleep
this.
it, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I screwed up my marriage. And it wasn't but she did this, or but because she did that. It was like, no, dude, I did some really, really dumb shit. And I owned it. And it was like, okay, cool. Like, that felt good because that was truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it didn't matter. I didn't need the public appreciation for it. It would just felt good for me to share honesty and to share reality. And you would be, for every like that I get and all the comments and stuff, it's 10 times behind the scenes. And that's something that really drives me and motivates me, is the amount of messages that I get through social media from people saying, you have no idea, like, how much your message has helped me. You have no idea how much this has helped me. You know, I'm at a gas station a couple months ago, and a pretty well-known realtor here in town, we just happened to be parked, getting gas at the same time. And he's like, we're small talking. He's like, hey, by the way, one of your insights, my family and I used that for our family home evening the other night. And that was just like, cool, man, like, kind of, high-fiving and whatever. And that just, it means something to me when I travel and I meet people in random places, and they're like, bro, you have no idea, like, how much your message helps.
So, yeah, I mean, let's talk about your insights. So one of the things that if you follow Sean, you'll notice is he does a daily insight. And I always think I'm going to do that. I'm going to start doing that. But I like, every week, literally, I'm like, I should do that. But I've gained a lot of appreciation and insight from that. When did you, what point in your life and your process did you start doing that? And talk about your daily meditation and your process. How did that come about?
What's funny, and most people don't know this actually, is that's kind of become my journal. And so right after my divorce, when I hired this coach, one of the first things he had me do, which was really, really fascinating, because it's the reverse psychology of what you would think a coach would have you do, is right when I hired him, I hired him because it wasn't a business thing. I didn't need more money and didn't even figure this out. I just said, look, man, I'm sick of being angry. Like, I'm just angry at everybody. I'm angry at life. I'm pissed off at the world. Everybody's at fault for everything else. And so the very first thing he had me do was write a letter to my ex-wife, which it took me like 3 months to write this appreciation letter. He's like, I want you to write a letter and tell her all the things you appreciate about her. I'm like, well, right. I want to throw her in front of a bus. Like, I don't want to write her a letter. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up doing that. And he said, this is where I started to learn meditation and study and really take control of my mind. And one of the things that he had me doing was morning reading and morning study. You know what I mean? And
what do you read? What do you study?
Everything.
How do you meditate?
Everything. Dude, that's a whole, I'll tell you, like, I do the Ascension Meditation, which was taught by the Ashaya monks. I went and studied with the Ashaya monks for 4 days, like 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, learned that form of meditation. But that became kind of my morning routine. And he's like, the paradigm shift from the anger, the frustration, to something positive. He's like, I want you to just write down your thoughts in the morning. And so I looked at it as, I'll just use this platform called Facebook. I had like 200 friends and nothing. And so I just started writing down my thoughts in the morning. Like, this is what I'm realizing about this. This is what I'm learning about that. This is what I'm understanding. And I kind of coined the whole, my insight from my morning study. So it might have been from my meditation. It might have been from prayer. It might have been from literally like some mornings I wake up and just have these thoughts that come off in my brain. And I just literally will write them down and just ship it. And I just put it right on Facebook, and that's where my insight comes from. And so I've done them every single day for like the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years. So probably like 700 and something, 800 and something of them, but it's become my journal. And so in the mornings, like, it's funny because I hired a company to go back and rip them all from Facebook. And so I have them all written down, and I'm going to actually start writing books with them. So expanding each of the morning lessons and just taking them deeper, because they're just thoughts that I have. But that's my thing, is like, I want to shift my paradigm from, most people wake up fear. I mean, oh shit, today I'm frantic. I have this, I have that, I have meetings, bills, things, kids, whatever. And my mission is to slow my brain down and be able to literally control it. And my morning insight, my morning meditation, my morning study, and my morning prayer and reading is what does that for me.
Okay, well, hold on real quick, because my wife and I are very different. I'm very, I tend to be more outspoken than my wife. And so a lot of people wonder, where do you draw the line, or is there a line, or do you care? What's the difference between being, because to me, sometimes I think whenever I hear somebody say, I'm just going to be totally real, that just means he's going to be a total a-hole.
Yeah.
So how do you differentiate between being real and just being hurtful? Because sometimes, like, my real honest thoughts are just going to tear somebody to shreds, and they're not going to help them at all. And so what's the difference between being real and being an a-hole?
So, as you can see from this tattoo that I just got, the simplest way to explain that is this lesson that I learned a couple months ago from my friend Jesse. And he said, what's the difference? He taught me the principle of the lighthouse and the tugboat. And this isn't something that I understood, because I was basically living my life as a tugboat.
We should make
going
our own
out.
shirt, by the way.
We're working on it. I already have designs for you. Let's get the other done right now. So I'm sitting in this room in Austin, Texas, and he's explaining this to me, and it was like, there's certain moments that I have in my life that I can think back on when like my world just exploded, like when all of a sudden everything made sense. And this was one of them. And he's like, the reality is most people live their life as a tugboat. I mean, I got to say things that are going to make you happy and you happy and you happy. And I don't want to offend you because I know this about you and this about that. And then all of a sudden your message is completely void because you don't say anything.
Yeah.
And the reality is we're living these lives of going out and trying to save everybody and make everybody happy and say what's pleasing and trying to save our family and our friends and all this other stuff as a tugboat. And the reality is a lighthouse does the same thing. It saves boats. I mean, it saves ships the exact same way, but it stands in one spot and it radiates its light. And it doesn't matter if the boat heeds it or not. It's up to the boat. And the ship has the choice whether or not it runs into the rocks or heeds the light and takes the direction from the lighthouse. But at the end of the day, the tugboat and the lighthouse both have the same job. They just go about it extremely different. And my brain like exploded when he told me that. And I just realized like this whole experience over the last year and a half of kind of having things go viral and becoming kind of this online guy where I literally go any gym I go to, anywhere I go, like literally in the airport.
I see it. I mean,
you see it everywhere I go. People are like, you're that guy. I read your things and whatever. I had this guy at the gym take a picture with me the other day, and it was just, I mean, it's flattering. It really makes me feel good because I realize like I want to put value into the marketplace, and the value that I want to put in the marketplace is authenticity, and that authenticity comes from being a lighthouse.
But do you find that, I mean, it has to have been something that as you go through and you're trying to respond to people that interact on your page, you have to find that for sure you're polarizing to some, and there's no way that everybody agrees with you. So how do you internalize the fact that that guy totally is offended or that lady is totally offended? Do you say, I don't care, that I'm right? How do you deal with the fact that it's really hard to be real and to be a personality that says exactly what you think without pissing off a whole bunch of people? You're going to have a ton of people that love it, but for sure you're going to have a ton of people that are like, man, what an
Well, that's what I was
a-hole.
going to ask you is like, obviously, when you have like an opinion and you stick true to your opinion, you have people that love it and you have people who hate it. Like, and obviously there's people that mean nothing to you, that you don't know, that they don't know you personally on a personal level as a friend or family or whatever, and they say something stupid out of ignorance or out of whatever. And those type of comments obviously kind of fuel the fire and but like if you had someone who you truly care about, like a family member or a friend that you've said something that has offended, and how have you like responded to that, or how have you handled that? Because I know that like in posts that I've made that are raw and real, like I've had people say like that, like hurt. Like that wasn't like super cool. And like you have to like, you can't obviously please everyone, but when you're posting like the stuff that you post as raw and real as it is, like obviously there's going to be people who are pissed. Have you hurt someone like really close to you, and how did you fix it?
I don't know if, well, I've offended.
Obviously you don't have to like get into it.
So no, last week I posted something about my kid at his basketball game.
The treats?
The treat post.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so, I mean, dude, that has like 6,000 likes. It's been shared. I don't even know how many thousands of times. It was insane because it was like an extremely raw topic. Nobody wants to cover that shit. Nobody wants to talk about fat people
tell us
and
real
the
quick
whole
what
thing.
happened.
So anyways, my son, after his basketball game, I'm observant and watching and experiencing what's going on. And the couple that brought the treats, they were massive. I mean, they were pushing 400 pounds, both he and her. And I'm not judging them because of who they are. Maybe I am. But they ended up handing, this is an 8 o'clock a.m. basketball game, and they hand them these little grenade drinks of like straight sugar and brownies. And, you know, I grew up where it was like, we got a Ziploc bag with oranges and apple slices and shit like that. And so I did a post and I'm like, you wonder why our country is obese. You wonder why people are out of shape is because they're eating this shit at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said, honestly, dads, if you're so big that you can't walk across the basketball court or dribble the ball across the court with your own sons, what type of service are you to your son? What type of father are you? Well, dude, people went ape shit. People went absolutely bonkers over this deal. And what's funny is my mom called me, and my mom chewed my ass out.
Really?
My mom, she hung up on me. My mom doesn't ever hang up on me, but my mom got livid.
I've heard you talk to your mom, and she's been offended by stuff before, but not like that.
She hung up on me, and it was kind of like,
What was she
shit.
mad about?
She was mad because my mom struggled with her weight her whole life.
Yeah.
And my mom's not an obese lady, but
Yeah.
but my mom has struggled with her weight, and she was offended by it. And she's like, it's not your job, and it's not your responsibility, and it's not your, you know, whatever. And so stuff like that happens where, you know, people will, but they know truthfully, like her whole point to me was, you're right, but you should have said it differently. I
Do you agree
agree
with
with
that?
what you're saying, but you should have said it differently. And this goes back to your point, which is, if I'm trying to please you and you and you and her and him and him and him,
Then you won't
eventually I have no
podcast.
message.
Yeah.
I say nothing. And so I choose to realize that I'm going to stand behind what it is that I say and what it is that I feel. And this goes back to why Trump is so polarizing. This is why Trump is beating the shit out of everybody in the polls, is because he's the kind of guy who stands up and says, this is what I think and this is what I feel, and I don't give a damn if you like it or not. This is who I am and this is what I want to do. And, you know, most other guys in the political world, this is why, I mean, I do a lot in politics, is most other guys are kind of like, wait, what do I say? Tell me what to say again. And they're puppets, they're
You mean
sheep.
Obama?
Yeah, I mean, everybody.
I didn't mean to say that.
Well,
Everybody.
They're
No,
focus
you
group.
didn't.
Yeah,
You meant that.
they're moderated and all.
Yeah.
focus
And that's
group
what,
driven.
you know, I mean, for me, building my business, building the brand, building the whole thing, I realized that what I'm going to say, it will offend people. It will please people. There will be people on both sides of the thing. But at the end of the day, I feel that burden lifted off of me because I've said what it is that I want to say. And at the end of the day, like, the people that gravitate with the message, and that message was huge. I mean, that thing has thousands and thousands and thousands of likes and shares. And I mean, it had something like 3,000 or 4,000 comments. So you know you're saying something that has meaning and value and strikes a chord with people when you have that kind of
Well,
engagement.
see, I have that desire, and I actually have that behavior. But then when I do make my mom really mad,
somebody else.
tends to be my dad more often than, or my wife, for example. I still really think that, but I don't want that anger. And I know that unless I go back and soften my message and actually apologize for it, that there will be some, like, how did you go about repairing that situation with your mom? How'd you go back from her hanging up on you to all of a sudden having it be something, Mom, I still think this, but you know, how do we get past this?
It's interesting because I've had this happen quite a bit, and at the end of the day, I realize that your feelings are not my responsibility. And that might sound really harsh to some people because that's how we've been programmed. Don't make him mad. Don't say anything that would be offensive to him or whatever. But I realize that you're triggered by something. Like she was triggered by something, and that doesn't have anything to do with me. I didn't say anything mean or malicious or anything against her. I shared what it is that I want to share. And if you look at all of the polarizing figures in history, the people that we've erected statues to, the Churchills, the Martin Luther Kings, they all said that was polarizing to people. And at the end of the day, they knew that they had to stand where they needed to stand. And I'm not comparing myself to those guys. I'm just using that as an example. The reality is that it's my message. And if I cater it to other people, it's no longer my message.
Well, and also,
I'm not responsible for your feelings. Like, that's what I'm realizing more. The more I share and the more things go viral is, my responsibility and job as a lion is to literally stand and do what it is that I want to do, how I want to do it. And at the end of the day, if you look at, whether it's reading books or we're talking about Seth Godin, talking about tribes or whatever, that's how tribes are built. I mean, that's how they're built is someone being able to stand out in front and say the things that people want to hear, but at the same time that they truly believe and are passionate about. And I think that's what people see with me is it's like, you can call me whatever you want. I've had people tell me to blow my brains out. I've had people make comments about my daughter and like really crude, rude, like sexual comments about my family, about my girlfriend. I had a dude tell me to put a gun in my mouth and blow the back of my brain out. I screenshotted that. And I know that I obviously said something that triggered some insane things inside of him. And if it didn't have relevance, if it didn't have poignancy, if it wasn't something that had some merit or some value, he wouldn't give a shit.
well,
And so I tell people this all the time that, people are like, oh, what about the haters? And I hate the haters and screw the haters and this, that, and the other. Your biggest fans are haters. The biggest fans you have are haters because if they truly didn't care, they wouldn't spend the time.
Yeah, if you read Sean's thread, a lot of times you notice, like within a couple of minutes, the same dudes that show up repeatedly that wait to jump in to either argue or fight you on whatever it is you're saying. I mean, I feel like I have what you're saying about people getting offended. That's kind of, you've seen that meme going around lately where it's like, Tim saw something that offended him on the internet and he quietly walked away from it and moved along. I feel like we as a society have completely lost the ability to be selective or we all feel so mentally and emotionally entitled that everything has to strike us the right way. And, I have a really high capacity to listen to different sides of everything and just kind of take it for what it is and take what I like out of it and not. And, even you and I don't agree on probably everything, but I don't feel like I get offended by it, and I think that's a big flaw in our society right now is that everybody expects everything, like you said, to be tailored to them. And with me, I mean, I'm more worried about how it's going to affect not necessarily me, because I don't really care what people think about, like, I hope they like me, but whatever.
They don't.
But it's more about second level or residual effect. Like, how is this going to affect my business? Or how is this going to affect my perception? Or how is this, what people think about me, affect my wife? How do you think about any of that? Like the blowback of secondary, because I don't care what people think about me, but.
Well, like what you're saying, I guess I'm curious, and I know you're going to be honest about this, but since you've had this epiphany about being real and saying what you really feel like and that you're not responsible for how someone feels, how does it affect your intimate relationships with your girlfriends? I mean, is it harder?
Girlfriends?
Well, I don't know. I don't know enough to know whether you've had the
Friends.
same girlfriends or whatever, but to me, I get in the most trouble for being real with my wife, who is very non-confrontational, does not like even the idea that my opinion, which she totally knows, with it being shared at a dinner, is going to piss somebody off. And so how have you felt like it's affected your most personal relationships other than your kids? How do you feel like it affects your girlfriends and, your dating relationships?
I think truthfully, deep down, people want it. They truly want the freedom and the liberty of authenticity. I think everybody truly, genuinely wants that. But it's like the more it comes to the surface, the more scared you get. The more no, just push it back down. Let's just keep it superficial, shallow.
Yeah, how many posts I've actually deleted right before I hit send?
How many times have you written something or wanted to say
Yeah.
something, or you see your wife across the room and you want to say something.
But you're done dealing with. You don't want to
something.
deal with the drama because, like, I
You know what
post
I'm
stuff,
saying?
and then all of a sudden I realize I'm not in the mood to really argue about politics.
But who's there to argue? That has nothing to do
where
with
I'm not
me.
in the mood. Yeah, exactly.
What you choose to say to me has nothing to do with me. And I truly got to a point where I realized, like, you know, like with dating, with you know, anything along those lines, it's like I've actually found that it's helped because you realize there's more authenticity. And girls that I date or wherever I'm at or relationships that I have, you know, there's an intense amount of authenticity. You know what I mean?
Because we've talked about it a lot, and I know your current girlfriend, and you
Yeah.
know, do you feel like she's evolving with you in that mentality, and she kind of gets it? She's understanding.
Does she share that belief?
with you?
I actually think she does. And what's interesting is like you know, she and I have known each other for a long time, and it was on and off and on and off and the whole thing. But you know, the reality is the more real I get with myself, the more I'm understanding relationships, and the more I'm understanding like the level the true depth of those relationships. And I feel like the connectivity that I have is far greater, and there's actually more peace, and we fight less because you can be more real.
Cool.
And when you share bullshit and you're sharing like superficial feelings and you're triggered by what she says, and when, you know, Jen says something and you jump down the rabbit hole with her, and you know she's not really mad about that, it's something else, and she's had a long day or whatever.
But you're going to go to war anyway. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I feel like the authenticity, where I can for instance ask, so what are you thinking about? Nothing. Well, you know you're thinking about something, right?
Yeah.
And so
Well, sometimes I think my teenagers are genuinely thinking about nothing.
well, yeah, I mean, and maybe they are, but we're at a point now where literally, like, what are you thinking about? And I have no problem. There's no reservation saying it, and it doesn't matter what the subject is or what the topic is, and we can get at a whole other conversation. But like, I know that that's the place of authenticity. So it's like, if I ask you a question, what are you thinking about? Are you okay? Everything good? Yeah. Then you know, cool. Like, I'm not gonna jump down the drama triangle. I'm not gonna jump into the freaking whatever. It's like we've gotten to that point where the communication is so real that you don't have the issues. You don't have the drama that you would when you're not authentic.
Well, I feel like when you're real with yourself, when you really think of like, why am I doing this? Why does this make me mad? What's the real,
Yeah, just
true,
keep it rolling,
honest
bro.
reason?
Keep it rolling.
Episode part 1 and 2.
This is hey, Joe Rogan does it all the time.
I feel like when you really think of like, when you're truly honest with yourself, like, why does this make me mad? Like, no bullshit. Like, this makes me mad because of this. Then when you really like get into a conversation with someone and you can really understand like why they're mad, because like you're no bullshit to yourself. And if you can have that relationship with everyone, then, or with certain people that you're closest with, then like there's no bullshit behind it, and it makes it more understanding, because if you're no bullshit to yourself, then like whatever they're telling you, it makes sense to you because it's not hidden. There's no subliminal meaning.
But some people aren't comfortable with, like my
And I
wife,
feel
for
like it's
example.
easy to read,
Nobody,
though.
I have yet to meet someone that thinks my wife is mean, because she's just not mean. She will not say anything to the point where she makes sure that she's never offensive. And so I really have
Sounds like a
friends
great
because
lady.
of my wife.
Sounds like a great
Because,
lady.
you know, if I was totally honest all the
bet.
time, there'd be very few people that would want to be around me, because, you know, I have a lot of opinions that really only my wife knows, and she doesn't agree with a lot of my opinions. Luckily, she loves me despite of me being naturally very abrasive. If I just was myself, and there's a difference, I
You
think,
wouldn't have
between
any
being
friends.
myself and being real, because, you know, I naturally want to attack something that I disagree with, and so
Yeah.
like for me, when I see injustice, and not necessarily like somebody's being attacked, but when I see something I don't agree with, I just want to go boom and just say, dude, what is your problem? You're this, this, and this, and I'm gonna be so caustic and abrasive in my approach that nobody's even gonna listen to the message because I'm so abrasive. I mean, do you ever find that?
You have anger problems, bro.
I do. I
We all
genuinely do. In fact, my wife.
And that's okay. I mean, that's truth. Like, that's truth,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I'm being totally
It's
serious.
true.
Like, you can acknowledge that and
Yeah.
say, hey, people piss me the off.
Yeah.
And I want to punch them in the face. And you're totally cool with that. Like, and that's the thing. That's truth.
Yeah.
And when you can admit that and acknowledge that, now you have a place to work with. And that's the problem, is most people are like, I'm not freaking angry. I don't have any anger problems, whatever, F you.
I'm crazy.
We're just going to bleep this right? You know what I'm saying? But
More
that's the
work for
thing. If
Christian.
you actually get real and you get raw with that stuff, I mean, I have written on my bathroom mirror, you know, real, raw, relevant. Like those are like the principles that I live by. Like everything's got to be real, which is truth. Real is what the truth is. Like this is what's happening. We're sitting here right now. Raw are the emotions behind it. What are you thinking right now? Like real is this situation right in front of you. Raw is the emotions behind it. And the reality is, how is this affecting us? And that's the thing is that's the reason most people can't debate. Most people are not capable of debating because it turns instantly into an emotional argument. And they put up their defenses, boom. Instead of truly trying to be connected. Instead of truly like, this is the reason no one talks about religion. This is the reason like when I share people go crazy on it because I'm really open. Like I'm genuinely interested in wanting to know more. Where most people are like, this is the way it is. This is what the pastor told me was mom, dad, fuck everything else. No. I don't want to hear it. You're wrong because it goes against this. And when you meet somebody that has that ability to like truly, genuinely open up their mind on any topic, money, politics, sex, religion, and truly want to know more and understand more, share where you're coming from, share your truth, let them share their truth and see what comes out of it. But we don't. This is not how our society is. Which is why you look at all these little kids that are like fighting teachers and all of this other bullshit. Why politicians just go right at each other. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we're constantly trying to prove right or wrong. And at the end of the day, what is right or wrong? You have your opinion, I have my opinion. At the end of the day, it's like, what could I learn from society? What could I learn from these political discussions? What could I learn about talking about religion and the universe and God in a really, really open forum? And that's what I really enjoy, where I feel I'm being called to and compelled to go, is those kinds of conversations, because not very many people are capable of going there. No one wants to talk about politics. I mean, it's like the no-nos. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about sex. You don't talk about money. You don't talk about religion. You know what I mean? Let's just talk about,
those are
whatever,
what you talk about.
That's what I talk about,
like,
because that's shit that matters, man. Yeah. That's what matters to you. That's what matters to the world. But yet we're literally living in this sedated, like men have become completely neutered from being men. And we're living in this world of sedation where it's like we're just kind of coasting along and, don't say anything and don't wake the fuck up. And, dude, that's what Lions Not Sheep is. Just waking up, acknowledging who you are. Like, what the hell do you believe? Why do you believe that? It's cool. Like, that's actually cool to go deep into those conversations because it expands your mind. And if you're not about expanding your mind, like, just go back to the corner and go to sleep.
How often do you find yourself debating someone with someone where you genuinely feel like they changed your mind?
Lots, all the time.
And how did you get to the point where someone who is as opinionated as you are and who is as confrontational in the fact that you do feel strongly about many things, how is it that you're able to be open-minded in a conversation that person starts out saying something that totally goes against what you originally thought?
See, that's the beauty is I'm in a place where I want to receive. I'm constantly like for instance, prayer. I used to like negotiate with God, right? Which is how most people pray. All right, look, I really need this thing to happen. So dude, I'm going to do this if you'll do this, right? Give me these blessings and I promise you I'm going to be a good guy and I'm going to whatever if you give me the job. And I shifted my paradigm into saying like my prayers truthfully, like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, thanks for another day. Put the people in front of me that you need me to talk to and put the words in my mouth that you need me to say. Because I'm not going to debate and argue. And so I feel like when you meet with another like-minded individual who truly wants to learn, I can be opinionated, you can be opinionated, but if you're truly trying to build and you're truly trying to grow and you're truly trying to understand, it's evident. But when you're instantly defensive, and I see this through Facebook, like when I post stuff, when people genuinely ask me questions, I'll go at it with them all day long. And it's not really going at it, but I'll engage with them all day long. But when you get the instant combative person that's like, you're an asshole, and this is why, it's kind of like, dude, you're not here for further knowledge. You're not here for understanding. You're not here for a debate. You're just here because you're scared, because you don't have the mental capacity to engage with me. And you, I mean, when you experience that with somebody, like we can disagree all day long, Republican, Democrat, Mormon, Catholic, whatever you want to, sugar-free Red Bull, regular Red Bull, like we can debate about whatever. You know what I'm saying? But like at the end of the day, when I feel like people that are truly wanting to engage and grow are capable of doing that, and you know that when you meet somebody.
Well, I love this topic, but I really feel like more people will get to it if we split it up. And so, Sean, I really appreciate you coming on here. And
were we supposed to talk about guns or something?
Yeah, we didn't get into anything. So.